Welcome to Reality Rewire, presented by the Wisdom Network. We're here to explore the tools, practices, and healing modalities that create real transformation from the inside out. Today's conversation is one that you're definitely going to want to hear. Let's get into it.
I have a question for you, and I want you to be really honest with yourself for a moment. When you were about to send that email,
Oh, the scary one.
right, the one where you actually ask for what you are worth, or when you are standing in a meeting and you are about to disagree with the entire room because you just know you are right, whose voice do you actually hear in your head stopping you?
It is usually some variation of, don't be difficult, isn't it? Or maybe, are you sure you're ready for this?
Who do you think you are?
Exactly. You are too much.
You are not ready. Sit down. We spend our entire lives assuming that because that voice is inside our own skull, and because it uses our vocabulary and it sounds like us, that it must actually be us. It must just be our own rational caution trying to protect us. But what if it is a lie?
That is the terrifying and frankly liberating question we are tackling today. What if the narrator of your life is actually an unreliable narrator?
We are doing a deep dive into a piece of work today that I just have not been able to stop thinking about since we put this stack of research together. It is a manifesto by Akira Halsey titled Reclaiming Authority from the Shadows of the Past. And look, we read a lot of self-help and psychology theory on this deep dive. Usually it is all about, thinking positive or hacking your habits.
Optimizing your morning routine, the whole fix-it approach.
Right, the idea that you are just a machine that needs a quick tune-up.
But this is not that.
No, I really want to call it psychological surgery. It feels invasive in the absolute best possible way.
It is archaeology. That is exactly how I read it. Halsey is arguing that what we casually call personality quirks or imposter syndrome or just being a shy person are actually artifacts. They are scripts written by other people. Your parents, your ancestors, your culture.
Yeah.
These systems of oppression that have basically been installed in your operating system without your consent.
And they are just running in the background, draining your battery every single day. So the mission for this deep dive is to find them. We are going to dig them up, identify who actually wrote them, and hand them back. We are going to surgically separate your authentic internal guidance from these inherited survival scripts.
And we really need to be clear about the tone here from the jump. We aren't suggesting that maybe this is happening to you. This source material treats this as an absolute reality of the human experience. If you have ever felt a hesitation that didn't make logical sense, or a fear of success that literally felt like a physical weight on your chest, you were operating under a script that was written by someone else. Period.
I love that we are treating this as fact because honestly, it feels like fact when you read it. So let's set the stage. We need to redefine a word that carries a ton of baggage. Authority. When I hear the word authority, my brain immediately goes to a cop or a principal or that boss who constantly micromanages your timestamps. It feels so oppressive.
Yeah, the guy with the clipboard. No, we have to scrub that definition completely. Halsey is very specific right at the start of the text. True authority is not dominance. It is not hierarchy. It is not power over another person. In fact, if you are exerting power over someone, you are actually displaying a massive lack of authority.
So what is it then? If it is not control, what exactly are we reclaiming here?
It is energetic alignment. It is the state of knowing what you know without apology. It is that undeniable feeling in your gut that says, I am here, I am rooted, and I trust my direction, regardless of what the external world is shouting at you. It is the absence of the frantic need to explain yourself.
The absence of the frantic need to explain yourself, man, that hits hard. It sounds incredible, but also, really hard to reach. I feel like most of us spend our entire days just explaining ourselves.
Well, it feels hard because we have been trained to believe it is dangerous. We have been conditioned to believe that if we stop explaining, we are suddenly unsafe. And we are going to explore exactly why that is. We have a solid roadmap for this deep dive today. We're going to start by identifying these imposter voices. Halsey calls it the ventriloquism of trauma. Then we are going to look at why safety often feels so dangerous to your nervous system. And finally, we're going to walk through the very specific, actionable steps Halsey outlines to actually reclaim that authority.
Okay, let's unpack this ventriloquism of trauma concept because that image from the source really messed me up. Halsey writes about looking in the mirror. You see your face, you hear your voice, but the words coming out, they are a mimic.
It is a chilling image, isn't it? It's almost like a horror movie concept. The source describes this visceral experience where the voice of doubt uses your exact cadence. It knows exactly how to sound like rational thought or prudence. But if you trace the energy of that voice back to its absolute source, It is not you. It is your mother's fear of abandonment. It is your grandfather's survival script.
Survival script. That is such a potent phrase. Can we dig into that? Why would my grandfather's script be running in my head in 2026?
Think about what a script actually is for. It is a set of instructions for navigating a specific scene. Your ancestors, your grandparents, even your parents, they lived in a completely different world with entirely different threats. Let's say your grandfather lived through a major war or the Great Depression, or maybe he was navigating a society with incredibly strict racial segregation.
Right, so for him, keeping his head down, not making waves, and just being invisible wasn't some kind of personality flaw. It was literally how he stayed alive.
Exactly. Silence equals safety. That was the unbending rule. If he spoke up, maybe he lost his job. If he lost his job, the family starved. Or worse, he faced actual physical violence. So that behavior, the silence, the compliance, the invisibility, it worked. It was a highly successful survival strategy.
So he survives, he has kids, and because he deeply loves them, what does he teach them?
He teaches them the rules of the game exactly as he knows it. He teaches them explicitly or even implicitly, this is how you stay safe. You stay quiet. You don't outshine the master. You do not rock the boat under any circumstances. It gets passed down as wisdom. It becomes an heirloom.
But here is the major glitch. I am not in a Depression-era factory. I am in a creative brainstorming meeting in 2026. I am literally being paid to have ideas. But my internal operating system is still running grandpa version 1.0.
Precisely. The environment has changed completely. The threat has changed or maybe disappeared entirely.
Yeah.
But the script is still running perfectly. It's just maladaptive now. What saved him is currently suffocating you. When you try to speak up in that meeting or launch a new creative project, your internal security system, which is actually his security system, goes into total lockdown.
That perfectly explains the physical reaction, right? The source talks a lot about this safety paradox. We back down from things not because we aren't capable, but because it literally feels unsafe to lead.
Yes, and unsafe here isn't an intellectual assessment. It is somatic. It is entirely in the body. Halsey points out that clarity, knowing exactly what you want, often sets off massive alarm bells in the nervous system.
Which is so completely counterintuitive. You would think clarity would feel amazing. You would think knowing I want this promotion or I really need to leave this toxic relationship would bring relief. But instead, it brings on sheer panic.
Because clarity requires action, and action invites visibility. And for generations, visibility was inherently dangerous. If you're visible, you can be targeted. So your nervous system, which is desperately trying to protect you based on that old ancestral data, just floods you with cortisol. It creates intense anxiety. It actively makes you doubt the clarity. It says, no, go back to the confusion. Confusion is safe. Clarity is exposure.
It is exactly like having an outdated home security system. You try to open your own front door to go out and just enjoy the sunshine, and the system screams breach lockdown because it firmly believes the wolves are still right outside the door.
That is the perfect analogy. And this right here is exactly why positive thinking does not work on its own. You absolutely cannot think your way out of a primal nervous system response. You have to understand that the alarm isn't responding to a real fire in your present. It is responding to a memory of a fire, a memory that might not even belong to you.
So we have these internal alarms blaring, but they didn't just magically appear out of nowhere. The source breaks this down into 3 very specific pillars of suppression: family, systems, and culture. I want to go through these one by one because I guarantee everyone listening is going to aggressively identify with at least one, if not all of them.
Let's start with family. This is usually the deepest wound because it happens way before we even have language. Halsey talks about the mechanics of equilibrium.
I really love the analogy of the mobile hanging from the ceiling.
Right, so a family's a closed system. Like a baby's mobile, it hangs in this very delicate balance. Everyone has their assigned position. You have the responsible one, the screw-up, the peacemaker, the sick one. If one piece moves even a little too much, say the peacemaker suddenly decides to start setting firm boundaries, the whole thing swings wildly out of control.
It is chaos. And the family unit absolutely hates chaos.
Correct. To keep the family stable, everyone has to stay right in their assigned box. So when you start to reclaim your authority, the family system will subconsciously exert massive pressure to force you back into your box. You might hear things like, why are you acting so weird lately? Or you've really changed, said with this deep accusatory tone.
And the source gives these just heartbreaking examples of how we learn very early not to outshine, or this lingering fear that if you speak up, someone else is going to play the victim.
That concept of making it about them is huge. Just think about how many times you have had a big win or a moment of deep pride, and a parent or a sibling immediately shifted the focus entirely to how your success somehow impacts them. Maybe they feel left behind or they suddenly feel inadequate. So you learn very, very quickly, my success actively causes pain to the people I love.
Oof. That is what they call the conditional love trap. The source explicitly says that for many of us, love was completely conditional on being agreeable, self-sacrificing, or totally invisible.
And that conditioning creates a profound body memory. Halsey writes, this is when they leave, this is when it gets cold. I want you to really think about the absolute terror of that for a small child. If I stand tall, the emotional temperature in the room instantly drops. Mom withdraws her affection. Dad gets overly critical. The child learns a brutal equation. Authority equals abandonment.
Authority equals abandonment. That is a guaranteed formula for a lifetime of playing small. You are actively choosing attachment over authenticity because, biologically speaking, as kids, we need attachment just to survive.
Exactly. We will gladly burn our own potential to the ground just to keep the family warm. That is the real tragedy of it. But we can't just blame the family unit. We have to look at the second pillar, which is systemic suppression.
Right. This is where we really get into the experience of the marginalized body. The source is incredibly direct here. These systems we navigate every day, corporate structures, educational institutions, political frameworks, they were not designed for everyone to thrive.
No, they were very explicitly designed to maintain a specific hierarchy. Halsey notes that for marginalized bodies, whether that is based on race, gender, physical ability, the system is working exactly as intended to keep those individuals uncertain, dependent, and distracted.
The distraction part is so fascinating to me. If I am constantly worried about how I am being perceived, I just do not have the energy left to actually lead.
Correct. Think about the RAM in a computer, the processing power in your brain. If you are a woman in a heavily male-dominated boardroom or a person of color in a predominantly white institution, you are running a massive background application constantly. How is my tone right now? Am I taking up way too much space? Did they interrupt me just now because my idea is bad or because of my identity? All of that takes immense energy. You have significantly less processing power for the actual work because you are burning all your fuel just surviving the room.
And let's talk about the too much label because this is a literal weapon. When a person in a marginalized body actually displays true authority, when they are direct, clear, unwavering, it is so often not read as leadership. It is read as aggression. It gets labeled as excessive.
Right. If a generic corporate guy slams his hand on the conference table to make a point, he is passionate. He's a natural-born leader. If a woman or a person of color does the exact same thing, they are emotional or hostile or just difficult to work with.
Precisely. So what is the inevitable consequence of that? The source says you learn to dial it down, even in spaces that openly claim to be safe spaces. Spaces that put up posters saying, bring your whole self to work. You are still running a background calculation. How much of my actual authority can I show before I am actively punished for it?
And we have to validate that that is not insecurity. That is hard data. That is a learned survival response to a biased system. It is a highly rational response to an irrational environment. But the steep cost is that you eventually become disconnected from your own intrinsic power. You actually start to believe the dial should be turned down rather than recognizing that the room is just terrified of the noise you make.
Then we have the third pillar to tackle, cultural and spiritual scripts. The source deconstructs these incredibly common archetypes that I think we see literally everywhere. The good girl, the humble mystic, the healer.
These are such subtle, insidious traps. The good girl is arguably the most pervasive. She is perfectly nice. She is completely non-threatening. She is universally palatable. But the reality is, you absolutely cannot be palatable to everyone and still be true to yourself. It is mathematically impossible.
And the humble mystic, or the healer, the source, points out that these roles are just soaked in shame, specifically around desire. You simply aren't allowed to want things for yourself. You're supposed to endlessly give without ever setting boundaries.
It creates this awful spiritual bypassing of authority. You somehow convince yourself that being completely powerless is actually holy or somehow enlightened. I don't need recognition, I'm just here to serve, or I don't care about money. But so often that is just an elaborate disguise for the underlying fear of taking up actual space. It demands a total disconnection from your inner compass, because guess what? Your inner compass has desires. It wants to build things, to create, to exert influence. Suppressing all of that isn't piety. It is just self-abandonment.
So we have the family, the system, and the culture all actively conspiring to keep this authority locked away. But how do we actually know if this is happening to us right now, today? because the source makes a great point. It doesn't always look like deep trauma. It very often just looks like everyday personality quirks.
This is the disguises of trauma segment of the deep dive, and this where we really need to be unflinchingly honest with ourselves. We tend to deeply romanticize our dysfunction. We call it being thorough or just being a perfectionist. Halsey completely rips the mask off these symptoms.
The first one called me out personally, I won't lie. Over-researching. Over-researching before you make a move.
The eternal student. Look, learning is wonderful. We obviously love learning. But there is a distinct tipping point where information gathering stops being preparation and becomes a dedicated delay tactic. You aren't researching because you genuinely need more facts. You are researching because you are absolutely terrified of making the decision.
It is the ultimate illusion of productivity. I'm working on my business today. No, you are reading the 50th article on search engine optimization because you are too scared to just hit publish on the website.
Exactly. It is entirely reframing your diligence as fear. You are secretly hoping that if you just read enough articles, the decision will somehow magically make itself, and you won't have to be totally responsible for the outcome. That is a massive authority leak. You are trying to research your way out of vulnerability, and it just does not work.
Symptom number 2 is external validation. Waiting for permission from a teacher, a guide, or a sign.
This is the complete outsourcing of your authority. We actively treat our own intuition like it is a second-class citizen. We will completely trust a daily horoscope, a self-appointed guru, or some generic piece of advice from a random deep dive.
Wait, even this deep dive?
Even this very deep dive, yes. If you are taking every single thing we say as absolute gospel without checking it against your own internal gut feeling you are doing it again, why on earth do we trust a vague sign from the universe more than the direct visceral knowing in our own bodies? Because if the sign turns out to be wrong, we can comfortably blame the universe. If we are wrong, we actually have to carry the weight as that. It is just another clever way to avoid the weight of our own lives.
Wow. Okay, symptom 3. Calling your intuition confusing when it's actually clear and scary. That one hit me like a ton of bricks.
This is such a crucial distinction that Halsey brings up. We absolutely love to say, oh, I'm just so confused right now. I really don't know what to do. Let me tell you, 99% of the time, you're not confused at all. You know exactly what to do. You know this relationship has been over for a year. You know the job is killing your spirit.
Yeah.
You are not confused. You are just terrified.
Because the intuition is forcefully demanding a change that you are desperately afraid to make.
Yes. The intuition is writing a massive check that your nervous system is too afraid to cash. So you conveniently label it confusion just to buy yourself more time. But deep down, the clarity is absolutely blinding.
And then we have the final symptom, peacekeeping. Defaulting to what keeps the peace, even when it actively costs you your own voice.
This is a daily transaction. You are literally trading your selfhood for conflict avoidance. You are willingly paying a heavy tax just to keep the room comfortable for everyone else. But the ultimate cost is your own vitality. You are harshly editing your next move before you even make it. As the source brilliantly puts it, old power dynamics are currently sitting at your table, actively trying to edit your next move.
It is exactly like having this spectral board of directors just sitting in your head, constantly voting down your ideas.
And you have to fire them, all of them.
So we have clearly diagnosed the problem here. We see the ventriloquist, we understand the pillars, we recognize the symptoms. Now we really have to pivot. What exactly are we aiming for? We defined authority very briefly at the start, but let's go much deeper. What does energetic alignment actually look like in the wild?
It looks like pure resonance.
Yeah.
It is, as we said, the total absence of the frantic need to explain yourself. Halsey uses this incredible phrasing, I know what I know. I trust where I am going. I stand rooted in what I'm here to do.
I know what I know. It sounds so incredibly simple on the surface, but it is truly radical.
It is radical because it categorically does not require citations. It does not require building a consensus with your peers. You are always allowed to simply know what you know. This is the ultimate permission slip the source is offering you. You do not ever need to build a comprehensive court case to justify your feelings or your life's direction. The knowing itself is the evidence.
And we absolutely have to reiterate what it is not. It isn't aggressively controlling other people.
No. Control is actually a glaring sign of a lack of authority. If I have to force you or manipulate you to agree with me, I am deeply insecure in my own position. True authority is highly magnetic. It stands perfectly still. It does not chase anyone. It warmly invites, but it never aggressively demands.
And the ultimate why here, this is not just about basic self-help narcissism. It isn't just, I want to feel good today. The source talks extensively about breaking the lineage of fear.
That elevates the stakes of this entirely. You are not just doing this work for you. You are doing it to permanently interrupt the signal. If you don't actively reclaim this authority, you will absolutely pass that same survival script down to the next generation. You will blindly hand them the exact same fear your grandfather handed to you. Reclaiming your authority is a profound act of service to the future.
Okay, I'm fully ready to reclaim. How exactly do we do it? The source moves into the mechanics of reclamation. And I really love that Halsey points out that healing isn't always this massive, dramatic event. It is incredibly subtle. It is in the micro moments.
This is so key. We constantly think we need a burning bush moment on a mountaintop. But real reclamation happens on a random Tuesday morning while typing an email. It happens in the tiny pause between someone asking a question and you're giving your answer.
Step 1. The no without context. Saying no without over-explaining.
Now, this is a serious practice. Just notice your automatic reflex the next time you have to say no to something. I can't come to dinner because... And then you immediately offer 3 separate excuses. A white lie about your cat being sick and a profound apology. Why do we do that? You are desperately trying to manage the other person's emotional reaction. You are trying to ensure they don't walk away thinking you are a bad person.
So the actual move here is just to say, I can't make it. Period.
The period is the reclamation.
Yeah.
You are keeping your own energy. You aren't leaking it out all over the floor in a pathetic stream of excuses. You are simply letting the no stand firmly on its own 2 feet.
That silence right after the period is going to feel absolutely excruciating, though.
It will feel like you are physically dying. It will feel like you are being incredibly rude and aggressive. But you aren't. You're just being clear. And as they say, clarity is kindness. You have to sit in the intense discomfort of that silence. That exact discomfort is the feeling of your power actually returning to your body.
Step 2, naming the truth. Name your truth even if your voice actively shakes while doing it.
We really have to validate the physical shaking here. We have this toxic idea in our culture that true leaders are completely fearless. No. True leaders are often completely terrified, but they choose to speak anyway. If your voice shakes or your hands visibly tremble or your heart races a mile a minute, that is not a sign for you to stop. That is not a sign that you are doing the wrong thing. That is literally your nervous system recalibrating in real time. It is the raw adrenaline of finally breaking an ancient rule.
You are breaking the cardinal rule of don't outshine or don't speak. Of course your physical body is reacting.
Exactly. Do it while shaking. The actual feeling of authority comes after the action, not before it. You absolutely do not wait for the fear to completely go away. You act right alongside it.
Step 3. This one is honestly my favorite from the whole text. Handing it back. Drop the borrowed fear and physically hand it back to the generation it originally came from.
This is a wildly powerful visualization technique. I want the listener to actually try this the next time it happens.
Yeah.
When you feel that massive wave of irrational fear, let's say it is about spending money or taking a basic risk, just pause. Ask yourself, is this actually mine? If you realize, no, this is my mother's deeply ingrained scarcity mindset, clearly visualize yourself literally handing it back to her.
Just literally imagine handing her like a heavy backpack.
Yes. Mom, this is yours. You absolutely needed this to survive your specific childhood. I don't. I'm returning it to you with love, but I refuse to carry it one step further. It creates a necessary psychological separation. You are deeply honoring their past struggle by explicitly acknowledging it, but you are flat out refusing to reincarnate it in your own life.
This is grandfather's fear. He can have it back. That is just so freeing. It brilliantly distinguishes between loving your family and actively becoming them.
Exactly right. You can deeply love the ancestor without ever becoming the artifact.
Step 4. Accepting recognition. Practice not deflecting when someone openly acknowledges your gifts.
Watch yourself like a hawk the next time someone gives you a genuine compliment. Oh, this old thing, I was really a whole team effort. Oh, I just got super lucky this time. Stop it.
It is almost physically painful to just stand there and say thank you.
It is. Because standing firmly in the compliment means allowing yourself to be fully seen. It means openly accepting that you have tangible value. And if you have value, you inherently have responsibility. Deflecting is just a very sneaky way of staying small and perfectly safe. Getting perfectly still in the praise is a profound act of authority. It boldly says, yes, I did that. I am that.
And finally, step 5. Leading small. Lead something, anything. But do it your way.
Start incredibly small. The source emphasizes this repeatedly. You absolutely do not have to launch a massive global revolution today. Just pick the restaurant for dinner tonight. And when someone inevitably asks, is this place okay? Firmly say, yes, it is going to be great. Plan a short meeting agenda. Rearrange the furniture in a corner of your living room.
It is really just about exercising the muscle, right? If you can't even pick a restaurant without anxiously polling the entire group for their approval, you certainly can't lead a bold life.
Correct. You have to actively build the internal tolerance for being the person who simply chose. And hey, sometimes you might choose a terrible restaurant, and you have to learn that that is perfectly okay too. Which actually brings us to the final and perhaps the absolute hardest part of this entire source material.
The permission to disappoint. This is the jagged little pill we all have to finally swallow.
It is the ultimate barrier that most people never cross in their entire lives. It is okay to disappoint them.
Halsey writes this incredible line. If you have been deferring your direction to voices that sound like safety but feel like control, it is okay to outgrow them.
We really have to critically distinguish between safety and control here. Your family, your culture, they genuinely want you to be safe. But their specific version of safe very often looks like you being heavily controlled, entirely predictable, and always within arm's reach. Actively outgrowing them is going to feel like a massive betrayal.
Because we feel like we owe them something. We genuinely feel we owe them our total compliance because they raised us or because they sacrificed so much for us.
The debt metaphor is completely toxic. You do not owe anyone your shrinking. Let me explicitly say that again to every single person listening to this right now. You do not owe your parents, your partner, or your society the payment of your own potential. That debt is utterly null and void.
The source ends with this absolutely incredible declaration. Your authority was never theirs to claim in the first place.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
You aren't stealing any power from them. You are simply recovering stolen property. You are rightfully taking back what was issued to you at the exact moment of your birth. The fundamental right to deeply know your own mind.
So where exactly does this leave us today? We have thoroughly looked at the archaeology of our own selves. We have successfully located these dusty artifacts of fear, the old scripts, the false alarms, the heavy masks.
And we have hopefully realized that they are, in fact, just artifacts. They belong securely in a museum behind glass, not sitting right in the driver's seat of your daily life. The voice in your head might be fully inherited. The fear might be a very old memory, but the authority, that is yours, right here, right now.
It is a daily practice. It is taking a deep breath right into your gut before you give an answer. It is finally realizing that the word no is a complete and total sentence. It is fundamentally realizing that you can deeply love your history without constantly being held hostage by it.
And if we purposefully connect this right back to the bigger picture, Halsey touches on this beautiful concept of generational return. Just really think about what happens when you finally hand that old fear back. Think about the profound shift that happens when you flat out refuse to act out the ancient survival script.
You completely change the script for the people coming right after you.
Exactly. If you boldly clear this space right now, if you actually do this incredibly hard work, your children, or maybe your nieces, your nephews, your students, the young people you mentor in your field, they literally do not have to inherit that heavy backpack. They actually get to start their own journey from a solid place of authority. They finally get to see firsthand what it looks like to be a whole, unapologetic human being.
By courageously reclaiming your authority, you aren't just freeing yourself, you are actively breaking a massive chain. The silence permanently ends with you.
The silence ends with you.
That is the core mission. That is the real work. And frankly, there is nothing more important you could possibly do. Thank you for going on this incredibly deep dive with us today. It is heavy lifting, but we know you were built for it.
Trust what you know. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
If anything in today's episode stirred something in you, that's a sign. And if you are ready to stop doing this alone, we have an incredible community of healers, spiritual life coaches, and hypnotherapists at the Wisdom Network who are ready to meet you exactly where you are and take you somewhere completely new. That's right. Head over to thewisdomnetwork.net, find your practitioner, and take that powerful leap forward. We'll see you in the next episode.